Burkina Faso, Mali and Niger announced their withdrawal from the International Criminal Court, calling it a tool of neocolonial repression. They say the ICC ignores Africa's realities.
Hey, welcome back again and thanks for joining us. We want to salute you all from wherever you were watching us. You saw how the African leaders took it right into the lion's den and told the system how discriminatory and, more importantly, biased the system has been for the continent of Africa. And we also how the leaders came prepared in a number of areas. It's African 100%, not at all, but the system is rigged in a number of areas, from the multilateral institution on how African countries perceive the global trade, financial system and collaboration. So it's one-sided, it's clear. You saw all the indications at the United Nations. But you know how we do it here. We want to thank you for watching. Without any delay, we just wanted to dive straight into specifics today because the countries across the Sahel drew the line and came out clear and let the colonial partners understand that it will not be business as usual, as they have come out clear and indicated that they are withdrawing from the International Criminal Court and, more importantly, the ICC's particular on perception across the continent of Africa have been called into question. We're going to dive more into that in a moment, but first of all, I'd like us to take a look, more specifically, go down to what Aljazeera has said, and we're going to be looking a little bit on what France 24 said about this specific issue, because why is it important? It is important because the continent of Africa is at a crossroad. Let's play the clip.
Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger say that they are withdrawing from the International Criminal Court. The three West African countries accuse the ICC of being a, quote, instrument of neocolonialist repression, saying that it only targets less privileged countries. They said they will no longer recognize its authority. Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso are all led by military governments, and those three governments have said that they will set up what they called indigenous mechanisms in its place. Aljazeera's Nicholas Hack reports from Dakar in Senegal.
An instrument of neo-colonial repression in the hands of imperialism. Those are the cutting and strong words used in a joint statement from the Sahel countries. They say that the International Criminal Court delivers selective justice, a feeling shared by other countries in Africa where there seems to be a disproportionate amount of Africans being prosecuted at the ICC. There's been former heads of states, politicians that have spent years in detention to be then released without charge. Now, in the statement, they say that the ICC seems incapable of prosecuting obvious crimes, crimes against humanity, war crimes, but also crimes of genocide, clearly pointing the finger to Israel without mentioning them by name. And so this statement from these three countries to wanting to leave the ICC comes just as weeks ago a delegation of Republican senators visited Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, where there was discussion over the ICC membership. Now, the United States is not a member of the International Criminal Court. And so these three countries now, Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, say they will create their own tribunal to try their own crimes of human rights violation away from The Hague, but on their own soil. Nicholas Hawke, Al Jazeera, Dakar.
Listen, folks, one thing is clear. African countries have continuously criticized the International Criminal Court, known as the ICC, for perceived bias, as it has historically focused on its investigation onto African nations. They argue that it reflects a neocolonialism aspect and, more importantly, disrespects national sovereignty, with leaders accusing the court of selective justice and hindering peace efforts. Concerns also exist around the court's own resources, potentially for politicizing cases, and practical difficulties on having powerful leaders prosecuted under the Rome Statute. It is important for Africa to make this argument because we've seen global events, whether it's in the war in Iraq and a whole lot of other countries, whether it's Gaza, also the Ukrainian war, a whole lot of issues, and African leaders have been picked out very easily as compared to other countries that have gone to countries like Afghanistan and Iraq and also have done some unacceptable things in those areas. So the continent of Africa, if you look at leaders from the Sahel countries coming out and calling out the ICC, it's not by mistake. Let's play this clip.
It's a landmark decision for three West African states, Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso, pulling out of the International Criminal Court. According to them, the ICC has an anti-African bias. The move places the three junta-led states at odds with their former colonial power, France, and regional alliances like ECOWAS.
This jurisdiction has been transformed into an instrument of neo-colonial repression in the hands of imperialism, thus becoming a global example of selective justice. The ICC has indeed proven incapable of addressing and prosecuting confirmed war crimes, crimes against humanity, acts of genocide, and crimes of aggression.
The decision to withdraw from the International Criminal Court comes months after a similar move from Hungary, and the process is set to last at least a year. The ICC was created in 2002 to pursue cases of genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes and aggression. The timing of the move from Mali, Niger and Burkina Faso come as they collectively forge closer ties with Russia, a country whose president faces an arrest warrant from the International Criminal Court. Since its inception, the ICC has launched 33 cases, and all but one have involved an African state.
If you look at the focus on Africa, critics have pointed out overwhelmingly number of ICC investigations and indictment against Africans argue that this unfair targets the continent and aligns with Western interests. Some leaders, like those from the Gambia, have described the ICC as a tool of neocolonialism designed to prosecute people of color, especially Africans. If you look at the sovereignty area, infringes into sovereignty, and African nations believe that ICC's investigation in their internal affairs infringe on their sovereignty, especially in post-colonial context. Obstacles to peace, also looking at ICC's own pursuit of justice, has been criticized for undermining ongoing peace efforts in conflict-affected countries. So if you see the countries across the region are questioning this particular court, it's not by surprise, because they felt that the court is biased in a number of areas, does not give them the room, and those big players in the region and globally do not have a fair shot regards to why they are not being investigated. So what Mali, Burkina Faso are doing at the moment is an indication that the global system has failed and it's not working on the interests of African countries. That's clear.
Maxine Rubin is a postdoctoral research fellow at the German Institute of Global and Area Studies. You've studied the ICC's relations with various African nations. You're joining us from Hamburg. It's great to have you on the program. What do you make of this claim by Mali, Niger, and Burkina Faso that the ICC is, quote, an instrument of neo-colonial repression, that it only punishes developing countries?
Hi, Cyril, and thank you so much for having me on your show. I would hesitate to adopt that language that has been put forward by these three countries. It's a popular critique from after al-Bashir's arrest warrant was issued. But in this instance, I'm not sure it really holds water. It seems to be a thin veil for other motivations behind the withdrawal. In fact, Mali self-referred its own case to the ICC for investigation, which suggests that there's something more to the story than what they're presenting.
Okay, what would be the motivation to withdraw from the International Criminal Court, which, just to remind our viewers, is the global court that examines potentially criminal conduct of individuals, right? So we have one court, the ICJ, which can put states on trial or bring legal action against states, and the other one, ICC, brings legal action against individuals.
Yes, I think that's a very useful clarification. Thank you. So yes, the ICC investigates individuals for these four crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. And in my view, the motivation, the most immediate explanation for why these three states have quite suddenly withdrawn from the International Criminal Court seems to be that there's other political alliances that are shaping this, most likely Russia. these three states all had coups between 2020 and 2023. The new junta governments have clearly positioned themselves as being in alliance with Russia, and the International Criminal Court currently has a warrant of arrest for Putin for war crimes and crimes against humanity in the Ukraine crisis. So I suspect that there would probably be political pressure for them to make a stand against the International Criminal Court.
Okay, so if I tell me if I'm understanding this right, you're saying that another possible reading of this is that countries that feel they may not want to subject themselves to scrutiny of potential criminal action would be the countries that would either never join the ICC in the first place. The US, China, Russia are examples. Israel is another example. And countries that may feel that the law could work against them sometime in the future, they would also be incentivized to withdraw from the Rome Statute. Would that be fair?
Exactly. I would agree with that. And I think it's important also to bear in mind why many states joined the court in the first place in the late 1990s and early 2000s. And one of the reasons for that amongst the African group was a belief that the International Criminal Court would be an equalizer, for example, to hold powerful states like Russia and US accountable. And that hasn't transpired because it's not a compulsory court to join, it's voluntary. So there also has been a bit of a disappointment from the initial vision for the court and what it's able to actually deliver.
Maxine Rubin, postdoctoral research fellow at the German Institute of Global and Area Studies. Thank you very much for joining us on the Aljazeera News Hour.
Thank you.
Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger are going through some tremendous challenges at the moment. They are continuing to pick up themselves and see how to align their global perspective and growth and development, with also at the United Nations, why these countries do not agree with a number of international tools and instruments. Again, they have said they are going to come up with something that meets their own needs regionally and can be dealt with other events or issues that happen. But they will not accept to go alongside looking at the International Criminal Court in a number of areas because they feel and they felt that over and over. It's a colonial tool that is being meant to subjugate them in a number of areas. Let's play this clip.
This jurisdiction has been transformed into an instrument of neo-colonial repression in the hands of imperialism, thus becoming a global example of selective justice. The ICC has indeed proven incapable of addressing and prosecuting confirmed war crimes, crimes against humanity, acts of genocide, and crimes of aggression.
Let me know in the comment section what you think regards the reason why Burkina Faso, Niger, Mali, the countries of the Sahel states, have decided to go in their own way, not just from working alongside the colonial organization called ECOWAS. They have decided to work alongside other countries that provide them the alternative, the security aspect, more important economic development, and they have seen that they can, to an extent, make some tremendous progress and improve on their own internal society that can give them the leverage that they are looking for to survive the global challenges issue that we all are facing. So African countries talking on issues regards to the United Nations did not come overnight. I will be looking forward to meeting you soon in our next episode. Smash the like button and have a good day. Bye-bye.